Agee, man. Boy, look what we got on the show today. I'm just going to start this one out just like this. The shot, not heard around. The shot heard round. That's how they say it down there.
Yeah.
Round
Yeah.
Arkansas.
Yeah. Yeah.
This brother on the show today, man, is a Louisiana native. An Arkansas Razorback legend. Matter of fact, they still owe him some money. We need to go back and do the NIL deals because Scotty's owes some money.
Yeah.
Played pro ball overseas for over 10 years. Coached at the legendary Arkansas school and is now the head coach at Parkview High School. We have on our show on the Hoop Dreams podcast today none other than Mr. Scotty Jump Shot knocking it down in your face Thurman. I'm Will Gates, and that's my dog.
Arthur Agee, Scotty, man, thanks for coming on the show, man. We appreciate you, man. The Shot is what I call you.
Oh man, thanks for having me, man. Excited to do it. It's been a long time since I've seen you, Arthur. I think it was like in Jonesboro, Arkansas or something. When you guys were getting ready to start previewing the Hoop Dreams, and never got an opportunity to meet Mr. Gates, but I've known a lot about him from his days at Marquette, man. And so I'm excited to get a chance to join you guys.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're here, man. And before we get into the show, AJ and I, we just got to ask you this, Scotty, man. Because, we're about the same age. We all traveling during that same time.
Right.
But when was the first time you saw Hoop Dreams, and what were your thoughts?
Man, the first time I saw it was like immediately when it came out, because I remember AG was going around kind of promoting it. And so I got a chance to kind of really understand some guys who were hungry like me from different city, but it was just engaging to me to see, you guys' journey. And so I watched it and I felt it because it was like something I lived through too, with just like my brother being an older basketball player and me kind of trying to emulate him. And, we all had all these wistful things we want to do with the game when we're young. And then you're faced with adversity and you got to, go a different route or go to a different school, or you may just have to take a detour somewhat. And so, for me, man, it was something I watched soon as it hit. It was a big deal for me.
Yeah.
I still got my copy at the house on the DVD. I still got it, and so I got a chance to watch it, man. It's something like when I started following y'all and seeing you guys had the Hoop Dreams podcast, I started following that instantly. And so I've seen some of the shows you guys have been doing too, man, just trying to support it. And I appreciate the initiative and the drive you guys got to, to put that content out there.
Yeah.
Man, we definitely appreciate that, man. When I reached out to you, I told you, man, I got a million questions for you because, man, I mean, the reality is, Scotty, you're a legend, man, and this is just on my end. I don't know how you feel about this, but I think that the world never got to see the best of Scotty Thurman. So I want to come back around to that, but AG and I on the Hoop Dreams podcast, man, we do this show a little bit different. We call it the Hoop Dreams podcast, but really, every guest that comes on, it's really the Scotty Thurman podcast. Because the show is about you, man. So what we want to know is right now, man, give us your origin story. Tell us how you grew up in Ruston, Louisiana, and describe your neighborhood growing up, man. What was it like for you growing up in the 70s and the 80s?
Well, man, I grew up in Ruston, Louisiana, the youngest of four. My father played basketball at Grambling State, Louisiana. He was actually, I found this out at his funeral. He was supposed to be one of the first black men to integrate the University of Houston. And so he chose not to do that because he met my mom. And so, he wound up having to, it would have been himself and Elvin Hayes. And so Elvin Hayes, obviously, that story it's already been written, but my father's kind of, I would say, probably started the origin of a Thurman being a great player that nobody maybe have gotten an opportunity to hear of, and so, I grew up, man, emulating a lot of guys, following my older brother around. I had two older brothers and an older sister. We were an athletic household, humble beginnings. My mom worked two jobs. She was a social worker as well as having jobs at places like Kmart, for those of you who know something about that. My dad he worked in the oil company for Shell Oil in the Gulf of Mexico. So he worked 7 days on, 7 days off. And so there were times where he got the opportunity to spend time with me, and there was times when obviously he didn't, because he was away providing. So for me, I had kind of a mixed bag of a childhood. I've seen the good and the bad. I've ran with the good characters. I've also got my experience with some of the bad characters. So, growing up in my neighborhood, I lived in a pretty, I would just call it a modern neighborhood. Nothing rich. I wouldn't call it low class. I'd probably call it right there in the middle or right there below middle. And, had a great childhood coming up, great neighbors. That was back in the day where you could go next door and knock on the door and borrow ketchup and whatever other bar soap or what have you, whatever you needed.
Yeah.
And so, grew up in humble beginnings, man, and basketball for me was just a way to stay out of trouble, a way to, not venture off to the streets with so many young men were going when you get up to the 80s, when you think about crack coming on the scene. And so, for us, we were doing everything we could to stay away from environments that we knew, weren't up to our standards in terms of what we wanted to be in life. And so for me, I just had a lot of friends, man, that all played sports, whether baseball, basketball, football. We ran track, because back then we did everything outdoors, which is a lot different than it is now. So, we used to drink the water out the water hydrant and all those things.
Yeah. Hey, Scotty, let me ask you, speaking on that too, where you said you played everything. Like, that's what we did. We played everything. But tell our listeners how far and, like, what's the geographical area of Ruston, Louisiana is, what's those other towns that's around from, like, how far y'all from New Orleans? And did you play outside it? Was there different playgrounds and stuff that you played on?
Oh, no question. Like, we had playgrounds in every hood. We had the West Side Park, we had the East End Park, then we had our high school gyms or middle school outside courts back with the chain link nets, where you shoot them as going through the chain because they didn't want anybody to take them and run with them.
You hear them ching ching.
So ching ching. So we play. And Ruston is about 4 hours away from New Orleans. Then you got Shreveport, that's about 45 minutes away. Monroe, Louisiana is about 30 minutes away. And, there's athletes, man, up in North Louisiana that people, wouldn't even think about. That's why you can see people like ULM, which used to be Northeast Louisiana, Louisiana Tech, why people have good programs right there, because they don't really have to go far for a lot of talent. But a lot of the talent locally in a town like mine, they don't really get out of.
Right. I always say this about guys growing up in the South, that they're groomed to play all three sports, football and run track. Most of them, football, baseball, basketball, and they run track. Like, that just seems like that's the South, what they produce, and it's known as a football town. You know what I'm saying?
That's the thing. Yeah, your whole state. Louisiana's always been known as a football state, but it's always got athletes in a lot of different sports because nobody made us pick and choose. Back then you didn't have coaches telling you in the 6th and 7th grade you got to specialize in basketball. If you wanted to run track, your parents said you can go run track. If you wanted to play baseball, you played baseball. I played football and probably would have been a pretty good quarterback until I realized I didn't want to get hit like that. And so that was the only reason I gave it up. I stuck.
Let me ask you this, and this too, Will. Every sport that you talking about, wasn't they free to play?
Yeah.
Will, did you have to pay to play in the Demons in the Sewer Park Baseball League? No. Did you have to? I mean, these leagues now cost money for shorties.
Yeah, the things I think that we probably had to buy, or maybe we didn't know we had to buy because our parents were furnishing it, or whoever was helping us out, probably the uniforms, the caps, but as far as like a registration fee and, X amount of dollars for this or that, I don't think that was really something we experienced.
Right. But we do know this: somebody was paying for it. It wasn't free.
Somebody was paying. Somebody.
That's sure enough the truth. Let me ask you this, Scotty. So let's take it back to the playground, man. I normally ask this question this way. What NBA players you looked up to, but I want to twist it up a little bit. When you was out there on that playground getting your game together, we as athletes, we've all done this. When you went 3, 2, 1, you let it fly. Who name was you calling out?
Oh man, now that's crazy because I've been some of everybody. Even man, I've been some of everybody. Even way back, I'm gonna go way back in college. Dallas Comedies. You know, I thought I had a turnaround jumper like Dallas Comedies. Tyrone Corbin sometimes because he was, he didn't score like that in the league, but in college he put that thing in the hole a little bit. Billy Owens, Steve Smith.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think other guys. Todd Day, obviously, Arkansas, who was there before me, as I started to get older. But man, but I really love Derek Coleman and Sherman Douglas, those Syracuse teams, because I was a Syracuse fan growing up, as a youngster. But man, I've been Chris Jackson. I've been Keith Smart. I've been Lenny Byers. You know how it is. You go pick one on that particular day. Hey, Thurl Bailey. So those are just a lot of guys. I grew up, man, just watching, and I've always just enjoyed watching the college game. And so, you go back to the Big East, Jerome Lane, Chris Mullen, Willie Green, and those guys. So I've had a chance to emulate a lot of different people. Wayman Tisdale at OU. How nice he was. So
Mr. Double.
So it was every time you look, turn around, jump, and never stop, man. So there was a lot of guys I emulated growing up.